into your plan and how it is going to be implemented, especially in a view of brain positive cities within the region of Catalonia. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Brim. Work. Thank you, EMEA, for the invitation, for sure, and the rest of the organizers of this brilliant symposium. I'm Laia Arnal. I come from the Presidency Department of the Generalitat de Catalunya. And it is my pleasure to explain you a little bit what's the Catalan Mental Health Act. During the pandemic, we all agreed that the mental health had become an urgent social and economical imperative, right? And when we talk about mental health, we're talking for sure about not only illnesses, but also well-being dimension, right? So by 2022, we started to take play on that, right? So it was not fast, it was not easy, right? So it took 3 years, 3 years time to work to have the final strategy, right? So this was a very intensive participation work, not only the government, right, represented by all the departments, right, but also local authorities, city council, regional entities, associations, providers, affected people, families, institutions representing providers, and also representatives for the civil society. So this was a huge work. More than 150 entities participated on that work, which means more than 300 people. And that was the result, right? This was the result, right? So this is not a government action plan, right, from the current government, but this is a national pact. This means that we all agree, right? If you want to arrive somewhere, you have to have a strategy to arrive there, right? And it's important to have it written, right? So that's it. This is a strategy, right? A cross-sectorial country strategy, not only for the government, but for the rest of the country, in order to tackle and to have results and solutions for the goal that means mental health and well-being, not only for today's citizens, but also for the future citizens. So this became an absolute priority in public policies. This is a transformation process, right? We are not creating from zero, but we have to transform, deeply transform lots of layers, lots of dimensions. And we have to ensure for sure the link between social and healthcare dimensions. This is not only a work of coordination, but we have to participate in constructing this. So our strategy, all right, was inspired, but I'm sure you all know this document, right, from the World Health Organization about the guidelines and policy guidelines for the mental health and well-being, right? So we were in a hurry, so we approved it some months before, but you can see that there is about 25, almost 30 experts and people from Barcelona, from Catalonia that took part in this document, right? So the document has 6 different strategic lines. The first is participation, empowerment, rights, right? And patient-centered, because it's not a matter of protecting the disability, but the things we have to do is to empower, right? At the top, all the rights and capacities of people. The second is protection, promotion, right, of mental health and well-being. We have to have a comprehensive system. That means that we have to include promotion, prevention, protection, identification, diagnosis, treatment, and recuperation. Because we are not treating only patients, we are recovering people, right? So it's important. And the second is especially important because we have to identify which are the determinants and which are the factors that damage mental health and well-being, because 70 or 80% of those factors are not biological, are economical, social, cultural, environmental, and others, right? So we have to take out about these conditions. The third is to guarantee accessibility, equity, quality, and have this kind of value orientation, right? And when we are saying about equity, right, and accessibility, This means also the territorial dimension, right? It's different to live in the middle of Barcelona than to live in a rural or middle-sized city. The fourth is a community model, right? Again, this comprehensive model, right? Comprehensive means that it tackles all the different phases, integrity between them, right? And community. Mental health doesn't happen on hospitals or in healthcare system. It happens everywhere, at work, at the streets, at universities, in private, in public areas, everywhere, everyone, right? So, and this also includes all the portfolio of services, right? And all the new services, instruments, equipments that are involved in the response. I go first to the sixth one, right? The sixth one is regarding information, data systems, research, innovation, talent, training, and beyond, right? So it's also important, the knowledge dimension, the talent, the brain talent dimension. And I leave the fifth as the last because it's not only about funding, it's not only about governance, but it's the most important now is leadership, right? Because it's not only political leadership, it is for sure, but not only this, right? We need influencers, we need people that have the ability and the capability to transform in their individual positions, in their, in the everyday works, and also at collaborative and collective dimension, because we are transforming this. So this is really important. And the governance is also important, right? Again, I represent the Department of Presidency. So every month, I have a meeting with all the general directors of all the different departments. And besides this, every month, I have a meeting with a representative of providers, operators, families, affected people, institutions, universities, the City Council of Barcelona, and very important, we do have what we call the mental health tables, which are natural environments of coordination, right, of every single little middle city, neighborhood, and they are also involved on that. Why? Because they are the link into the last mile, right? And they connect to the citizen directly, right? And they know their strengths and they know their barriers and so, right? So, the pact has not an extraordinary budget, right? But we don't need it, for sure we need it, right? But the important thing is that the pact is a place of transformation, is a living lab, is a place of co-creation, is a place of meeting, of putting, some executive homeworks, and is a place to foster pilots, to demonstrate with scientific evidence that they work, and then to try to scale it up, right? So that's why we do have, not a limited budget, but it's enough. But the important thing is how big is the budget of every single department, right? And at least the government, I promise you that invest hundreds of millions in mental health at the end of the year. So, at the same time, we're doing some strategies, some new projects. Some of them require big investments. Some of them don't. Some of them require some transformation in the processes, in the protocols, in the culture, in the way of work. Some of them are small and short-term. Some of them require long-term vision, right? So, few examples. Observatory. We have to have tools and numbers in order to follow all this, right? And in order to, especially, to take care about the factors and disruptors of mental health. We have to talk about mental health, right? But not only you, professionals, right? But also citizens, also media, also students, also everywhere, right? With the correct words, with the correct meanings, with the correct terms. So we have to talk, the relation between mental health and culture, mental health and sports, architecture, brain capital, and everything, right? And for sure, lots of campaigns. In education, we have to change rules. We have to do some things different, right? mainly regarding the huge challenge, which is the neurodevelopment conditions, right? So we have to work differently, not only doing the same things we were doing, but working together from healthcare, from education, and from social services, right? So we are doing new things, right? For instance, we want in few years' time that all students receive at the school some education about well-being, about tools, about how to manage that, right? Also, early detection under 3 years and intervention for autism syndrome and Asperger's syndrome, right? And some initiatives, right? Community, community, community. It's my obsession. Every day I say community. That's the top ranked word I say, right? So we have to go in a flexible and adaptive. We have to create adaptive services, right? The thing is that we are closing long-term beds in hospital, and we have to do interventions in the natural area of the people, right? This means sometimes in their house, in their school, in their jobs, with their families, with their relatives, etc. Right? So many things. And for instance, these assertive community treatments, right? Where do they treat them? Under the bridge, on the roof, on the wherever, where they need, where they are, right? Some other community things, new things that we've done. This is a key transformation, right? 4 years ago, we started doing, in primary care, what we call the social prescribing, right? That most of you have mentioned. And this is a huge transformation, right? To avoid really to prescribe pills, right? For depression, for anxiety. So this is a new thing that we have to put in, well, in all the citizens, right? And this means that we have to prescribe culture, we have to prescribe sports, we have to prescribe arts, social activities, right? And others, right? Very important. Again, a new agency, right? That aligns all the social service area and department and also the healthcare, right? Because if they are in parallel, they won't converge, right? And we need to integrate all those services, mainly the ones regarded on integrated mental health and addiction care, right? And also, right, years ago we had TIC Salud, which means ICT health, right? So we added the social dimension in order to carry out all those research innovation projects that need data and transformation, right? Labor, work, it's really important. It's a key tool for the recovery of some people, but at the same time, work can be also a risk of mental health and well-being, right? This is hard data to read, right? There's 33% of people with disability, also included mental disability, right? The employment tax is 33, but when you don't have disability, it goes down until 17, right? That's really bad. That's really dangerous because a lot of conditions of mental health don't need disability. If you have a depression or if you have, I don't know, some conditions, you won't have disability. So the goal here is to try to foster policies in order to create high added value works, right? And in order to increase this tax of employment, right? And community, and that's a thing, that's a new thing, right? What happens in your countries and universities? Because here, students don't go to class. Since we all have an AI, on a phone, they don't go to class. So what happens with the social commitment? What happens with the critical thinking? What happens with all this brain transformation if they are not even conscious about, of a community? So that's a goal itself, right? So, well, some activities regarding university and the knowledge ecosystem. And some others that also involve all the security, bodies, I don't know, right? And also, in this case, in some jails that we are already introducing some new therapies based on virtual reality or augmented reality to treat all the internals, right? And another thing that really came and has a strong impact. What about digital well-being, right? So we created a new transversal commission in order to try to tackle it from several, areas, right? From one side is in the design and regulation of new tools, right? In health and digital health environments, in families and education communities. So, well, important thing, right? So to focus, finally, the strategy has probably three main areas, right? One is everything involved in child, adolescents, and education, we could say, right? With lots of new initiatives and transformation and pilots and so. Another one is this community, mental health community system, right? Which integrates the social and the care area. And the third would be, again, also this mental health community, but in terms of work and labor. So it's important to have this comprehensive vision. Be aware that it's a huge transformation. It won't be easy. It won't be fast, right? We must be ambitious on that. And it requires lots of participation, lots of leadership, and because we have to tackle this huge cultural change. And just to finish, I wanted to stress this, well, that we also have to dignificate, right? When we are talking about mental health has a strong stigma, right? Not only the illnesses, not only the people who suffers of this illness and all its environment, right? But also the sector, right? Because when we think about, what happened 20 years ago, most of this sector was carried out by some, organizations, some of them that belong to religional, bodies or so it is also, there is also a stigma there, right? So I think we have a strong work to do on try to generate this collective conscience about that, recognize each other as members of the same sector, right? Or system or ecosystem or cluster, right? And we have to use the right words. It's very difficult when we are saying the third sector or when we say the economy 3.0 and we're talking about, well, it's not the same, right? But it's, or when we are talking about elderly or longevity or silver economy, it's different, right? So I think we do have to use these concrete words in order to put on the level we need to, right? So we have to stress out this economical dimension, not for profit, but to be sustainable, right? I think it's important. And just to summarize, you made me thought a lot. It's a mess now, but I have lots of information about all your proposals, but I wanted to point out two things about Barcelona, right? I think Barcelona has lots of success stories. 20 years ago, so 2 decades ago, we started a strong commitment with the biocluster, the power of clusters for sure, Marta. The bioregion of Barcelona, and today Barcelona is recognized for sure also for its cluster of biomedicine, biotechnologies, now digital health also. And that was not easy and that was not spontaneous, right? This means that it must be at the beginning a strong political commitment together with money, right? But not and strong from the city council, but also the regional and the state investment, together with the industry, the companies, the academia, the hospitals, the healthcare, everything, right? And it's not easy. It took 2 decades, right? But we do have some other good points. Barcelona today is recognized in one of the top European cities in terms of entrepreneurs that we attract, right? A lot of techie nomads that choose Barcelona, right? And that's not spontaneous. I mean, there are a lot of facts behind, right? But I think it's important. Years ago, we started talking about smart cities and no one understood a word what that meant 50 years ago. And today we are one of the top, smart cities festival in November or fairs in November. The same in Mobile Congress, right? For 20 years. So the thing is that, and Barcelona attracts lots of congresses and scientific events like the FENS we're hosting today. But the learning is that sometimes Barcelona needs, and all the cities, to have these milestones in the agenda, right? When Barcelona, by the year 1888, organized its first universal exhibition, right? It had a strong impact on creation of new work, jobs, in the transformation of the city, in terms of new infrastructures, new suburbs, new political regulations, everything, right? This happened again by the 1929 in another universal exhibition. This happened again for the Olympic Games, right? So I think it's important to put these goals, collective goals, that mobilize not only the public sector, but also the private sector in order to tackle these common goals. That's it. The last thought. I was realizing that when since the pandemic, we started talking about the transition, social transition, democratic transition, digital transition, environmental transition. Catalonia received almost 2 million new citizens during the last 15 years. That's a goal, right? Probably shared with some of your cities. But this is a paradox, right? Because we have to transform in an ultra high speed transforming ecosystem, because besides these three transitions, who knew that AI started 3 years ago and would move everything and would change everything? This means that all the things we are going to plan and to do for the following years, we must accept that besides the transformations that we know we have, there will be new transformations, which now we cannot even think about that, right? But I think it's important to have that in mind. Thank you very much.